I'm gonna press record again. All right. That was part of the, yeah, I just want to see if y'all paying attention. All right, knee. So the knee is not anterior to anterior. The knee is posterior to posterior, right? So the back part of your lower leg gets closer to the back part of your thigh. Calf gets closer to hamstring. I have no problem with local landmarks, but what we don't want to say is heel goes back or heel goes forward, because again, I can reposition that Rubik's Cube and make my heel go forward and back. I can make it go up and down. So posterior to posterior is actually will get me in the field. When posterior gets further away from posterior, I'm going to get further away from fetal. Okay?
So the only like out of the list that have like true illusions would be your hip, your knee, trunks.
Well, there's illusions everywhere. Like for the sake of the knee, I want you guys to understand that from here to there gets me just as much in the fetal as from here to there.
But it's like the elbow, the wrist, and the shoulder, like only like certain like to breathe. So like how would the wrist go in a different direction? So it goes one here.
No, say it one more time.
So like the wrist and the elbow, they can only go one direction.
Oh, no. The elbow, I think I understand what you're saying. The elbow and the knee can only go in one direction of feet.
Okay.
So in other words, when you're in anatomical, you're at the end of that road. The wrist can, watch, we can do a thought experiment. My wrist isn't at the end of its road.
Okay.
I can go in either direction from anatomical. My elbow, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. I can only travel west.
So how would it go from like this is the only like conventional limit that would get into like oh like this? Yeah. Okay.
Restate your question.
So like you said the elbow and the knee or the elbow, they can only go one direction. So how
From anatomical.
how would the other
Sure.
than anterior part two?
In the sagittal plane, it can't. It's just the elbow and the knee are in Jacksonville, Florida. And from Jacksonville is the furthest east you can go, right? I have to go west. So the elbow from anatomical can only have flexion from and can only have extension to. But my wrist is in Lafayette. My wrist can have flexion from, but my wrist can also have extension from. My wrist can have flexion to, and my wrist can have extension to. My elbow can't extend from anatomical. So that means I can only have flexion from and extension to. Does that clarify that?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very good point. I'm glad you brought it up. I think this is why so many people have a misunderstanding of what hyper means. Because it's logical to use elbows and knees as examples for everything, but they're different joints. So people will say, well, if this is flexion and this is extension, and if I go further from anatomical, that's hyper. Well, yeah, for the elbow, because you can't move extension from anatomical. But that doesn't mean that follows the wrist. So they want to take elbow and knee and apply it to wrist and say, well, if this is flexion of the wrist, this is extension of the wrist, this must be hyperextension of the wrist. It's normal range of motion of the wrist. Or for the shoulder, flexion, extension, hyper. No, that's normal extension. Hyper would be. All right, guys? All right, now we're done. Thank you for reminding me about the knee.